I'm Sandra Alland. I'll just introduce Matthew and myself briefly before we have a chat about disabled programming and the films you've just seen. Matthew Hellett is a programmer and filmmaker, a member of the Oska Bright Film Festival committee for many years. He became lead programmer in 2017. And as part of this role, Matthew introduced a new strand to the festival called Queer Freedom. Matthew's film Sparkle, featuring his drag queen alter ego Miss Sparkle, has screened internationally. So for me, I have a history in disabled and LGBTQI+ arts curation and access, and I've curated accessible programs featuring disabled and deaf filmmakers for Edinburgh Film House, GOMA, Disability Arts Online, BFI Flair, and the community arts project Kachin Kachang Kachunga. And I'm interested in integrated access and directly involving marginalized people in how our work is presented and described. So just before we start with the questions, I'm going to ask Matthew a few questions. I want to acknowledge that we just represent two opinions of disabled and or learning disabled people. But what we say isn't the only way to approach disabled programming. Our communities are incredibly varied, aren't they?
Yeah.
And this small discussion is just the tip of the iceberg.
It's just the tip of the iceberg.
One idea I do hope you'll take away is to involve disabled people in programming work about and especially by and featuring us. Yeah. So Matthew, can you maybe tell the people here a bit about Carousel's Learning Disability Film Festival, Oska Bright?
Yes, of course. We're the world's leading platform and opportunity and creative space for film to be shown, and for the people with learning disabilities throughout the country and just internationally as well. For them, it's a platform not just to showcase their work, but it's harder for people with learning disabilities to, in the mainstream, is for a chance to showcase a story into their world and into their life.
When did the festival start? It started in...
The festival started in 2004.
And
but I wasn't a part of it in 2004.
You joined in 2007?
I joined in 2007, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so you've been working 2007 till now. Like the maths, wow. Okay,
Yeah.
That's a while. So you've been working
a while,
that while.
isn't it? Yeah, wow.
12 years.
Yeah.
And this year's festival, when's that going to be?
It's going to be the 20. I hope I get this right. 26. No, I've got that wrong. 23rd to the 26th of October at the Old Market in Hove.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to get down to see that. So 4 days. It started off as a one-day festival. Now it's expanded to 4. That's right.
Yeah. 4 days this year to be part of like young people and family and filming and
cool.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk a bit about how we made today's program.
Yes, of course, yeah.
So what did we do? Do you remember now?
I did back in January. Yeah. Well, we got together, didn't we, over Skype, and we looked at what, like balancing what would look good and what would work and what wouldn't work, what would look good, and the different type of genres of film. Yeah.
For me, it was really interesting because it's the first time that I was programming from someone else's programming.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Because what we did was we
selected
films from the 2017 Oska Bright Festival.
That's right.
Sort of distilled them down into one thing. So that was really, really interesting for me. That you curated that festival with a committee in 2017, right?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
How do you normally select films at the festival? What's the process for that?
Well, like we get together in the spring and basically we split the committee up into like 4 different groups. So like the best we use their strengths as artists and what's their to the different genres of film, so that
so genre committees.
Because not every genre of film is my strength as a programmer, so I rely on my team and my committee to, and then at the end of the 6 weeks we get together and we have a heated conversation and a heated debate. And amazing. I must say I don't agree with everything that goes on, but you know, it's just part of.
Yeah, part of compromising.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
I was actually really surprised we didn't end up having, like, this, you know, on the program for today it said there's going to be a head-to-head debate, and sadly Matthew and I agree about a lot of things.
Yeah, we did, yeah, totally.
It's kind of disappointing.
Yeah,
I love that too.
Like a fake argument, but
I was ready to defend my films, and I was yeah. But I imagine with that many people involved and that many films, it can get quite heated.
Yeah.
Yeah, and are you the tiebreaker? Do you make the decisions in the end? How does that happen?
Yeah, it's not easy. it's people don't understand being a lead programmer. It's a complex job, but I love it. Yeah, it's not an easy job to negotiate, but I do. Yeah, I do like it a lot. I do like what I do.
Yeah. What are some of the most important things you consider when you're choosing films?
Well, I basically, before they get as far as the committee, I do a lot of my research in the office as well, in the council office. So what I'm looking for is, like, has it got a good theme? Has it got a good story to it from the start? And what is leading character? What they overall coming across? What were they portraying? And
Now, when we came together, there were a few films I think that we really liked, but we found didn't quite fit.
Yeah, that's right. It didn't quite fit, did we?
Yeah. So it's like trying to balance length of film. What other things do we look at? Like the genre.
The genre, the length of the film.
Yeah, because we didn't want it to end up like, there were quite a few documentaries we liked, but then it can end up kind of feeling a bit uneven when you're trying to show from the whole festival. Yeah. So I think we kind of managed to balance that out a bit.
Yeah.
One of the things, you were in the Guiding Lights mentorship with programmer Emma Smart.
Yeah.
And one of the things I think you told me about from that, you said that you learned really to trust your instinct.
Yes, to trust my creative instinct. Yeah.
So you kind of just go with how things feel in terms of how they're put together as well as you know, thinking it all through. So what kinds of disabled and deaf stories do you think get told maybe too much, or
too much?
Yeah.
Well, to be frankly honest, educational films that aren't relevant to us, and we're not 6 anymore, we're grown adults.
Mm-hmm.
We've learned disabilities and we want to be taken seriously. So we've had in, like, one of our festivals, not recently, but a film about how to brush your teeth and how immature and how is that coming across as not an Oska Bright film. It's not. It's like educational. You might as well be back at school or shown by your mum or dad how to brush your teeth, or at the dentist. We know twice a day.
Yeah, you were telling me that.
We're not stupid.
You get like all kinds of submissions.
Yeah.
From people that aren't disabled, like from charities and things that are like
ridiculous.
Putting these films in that are sort of public service
advert for like a car agency,
to a film festival solution. And I think as a programmer, like, not only is that patronising and really
very patronising,
frustrating, but you have to like waste so much time watching it as well. Because you think, oh, what's this going to be? And you have to watch like 10-minute video on. You said there was something about a car wash as well.
Yeah, that's right. There was this car wash.
Yeah, it's like,
and it's like, okay, do they?
Like these charities that are trying to promote their services to get disabled people into work or whatever.
Yeah.
Bullshit that they're sending your way.
Bullshit.
Yeah. But
just remember where you are, people in Glasgow don't start with the swear.
But to turn it into a more positive vibe on that one, what stories would you like to see more of? What kinds of things?
Well,
do you really
me
like?
as a gay man and also an artist, as I feel like a minority, and I've got a really good connection with my friend Matthew here. I would like to see more LGBT films in, because it's a minority of work that doesn't get represented still to this day. And I've been doing some work in the office, and all we found is just maybe one. And but you know, we've got to work with what we've got for what we have. But I'm still not entirely happy. So,
Yeah.
but you know, like we had this discussion earlier,
LGBT
didn't we, before the screening?
Yeah, I mean, I really want to see queer freedom happen, and I can tell you really want
I
to see it
would
happen.
really
again.
like it. It's
So if you know people, if you know autistic people, learning disabled people who are LGBTQI+, get them to send films. The deadline's, when is it? 30th of March?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
it. The 30,
Yeah.
How many days in this month? 31 is there? Yeah.
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 The end of the month?
Yeah.
End of the month.
Well, yeah, the end of the month. Yeah.
So when you came up with Queer Freedom, how did that idea come up? I think you mentioned Matthew Kennedy, so maybe you want to talk about how you came up with that idea with Queer Freedom.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we got sent some work. So my work, Matthew's work, which is great, fantastic, and then we got sent, like, I think it was 2 others, Pilly, and then this man who had dysplasia and likes doing drag, which was fantastic. And then I had to play around with words, and then see how see if we could come around with a strand, and called it Queer Freedom. Right,
that's brilliant. So you came out of, like, the idea came out of this frustration that you're talking about, that you don't see that work given the spotlight?
Because we're in this, like, a small minority of people who are gay and got learning disability, and don't think we've got enough representation on screen.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of different barriers coming into play there, I think. So Celeste was the only film that we both chose.
Yeah.
On our top 5,
it was,
there were top 2 or 3.
Oh.
So what drew you to Celeste?
She's a remarkable woman, she. Oh my God, she knows how to kick off.
She does.
Literally.
Yeah, so she knows how to, like, rule the camera.
She just knows how to rule the camera.
It's amazing. Cause, like,
I really admire her, totally.
That series of films, like, I think I told you this when we were on Skype.
Yeah.
At first I was a bit, had some reservations, because it was like a series of 8 films that were made called Amy Street, all about the residents of this supported living centre. And, you know, some of the language, it was non-disabled filmmakers making the films, and some of the language was like 8 short films, 9 special people.
Yeah.
And, you know, they said in the interview that pretty quickly we no longer saw the disability, but the individual, and kind of things like that. And some of it was a bit patronizing, the way it was framed, I thought. But I just felt that Celeste, like, she kind of, like, just overcame all of that. It didn't matter. She just was like, I'm making this film. It's about me. And here we go. And it became one of my favorite films because of the way that she sort of took control of it. And I thought that was really, really great. It became her film, despite what the filmmakers might have wanted to do with the project.
And too rightly so. She's of overall control, which is what she had.
Yeah, and I would love to see more work by her.
No,
yeah,
me too.
Yeah.
I hope she, I hope she goes on to make another one. But
I think she was on the soap opera eventually. Actually, I think she got a small part on Shortland Street.
Oh, did she? She got a small part.
I think she did. I think she did. So, do you think it's important? Sorry, I'll wait for you.
Thank you.
Do you think it's important for films about learning disabled people to be made by learning disabled people, and if so, why?
Yes, I do, because I think it's for the mainstream, for the big wide world, they have an insight into our world and into our personal life, and then which a lot of people don't see in the mainstream. So I think it's very important, because we're now international and not just the UK. So I think it's very important because we have overall control, and so I think it's very important.
I think the word you said to me on when we were Skyping was filters. Like
filters,
that if it's filtered,
we don't need to be filtered out by anybody in the mainstream. No directors, no, maybe just one, but no directors. Just us.
Being filtered through a non-disabled
we
lens.
don't need to be filtered through. No.
I thought that was really good imagery. What else were we talking about? We were talking actually about barriers to learning disabled and autistic filmmakers.
Yeah.
But also, we got to talking about barriers to being disabled programmers.
Yeah.
Which is something I don't think gets talked about a lot. And
no.
Like you work with submissions in the festival in Oska Bright, but also like you travel around and see films and go to different festivals. And what are some of the barriers you encounter when that happens? Like, what do you think makes it difficult for learning disabled filmmakers and disabled filmmakers to be out there doing what you're doing?
What is our biggest barrier?
Yeah, I think you told me a bit about
I did,
going to Claremont and like some of there were long queues. We went to see a screening and it got shut down because of it got filled up really quickly. Yeah. I think there's a lot of things that maybe aren't thought through about having to travel between one venue and another, and how that can be quite challenging either physically or because maybe spatially it's difficult to find different places and that sort of thing. And in film festivals it's often like these, very frantic queues and last minute things, and sometimes we need a bit of extra time for planning,
they don't take into account that should be an access issue, but it's not. But
I think it's something that is worth looking at in terms of trying to get more learning disabled people and autistic people into programming, and how people can comfortably do that, and then give you a run for your money for your job. Just kidding. That was priceless. I'm gonna give you really felt strongly about Sharif Persaud's The Mask. That it was a perfect film to open the program and set the mood and tone.
I did,
Why did you think that was a good one to start with? What about it?
Because he wanted to, he had the great energy about him, but not just because he had the great energy about him, but he's autistic, right? So I imagine, without me knowing much about it, well, I do know a bit about it, but he wanted like an insight into his world from other people, even though it was El Maori
He has a Barack Obama mask.
He has a Barack Obama mask.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see more about him. There's a lot going on there. But so you wanted to end with Radial and start with that one, and I thought they both set a really interesting tone and rhythm to kind of come in and out with. And I guess the other film I just was hoping you'd comment a bit about is your favourite, which I also really like, Man Without Direction.
Love that film. It actually won an award.
Did it?
Yeah.
And what about that film did you love so much?
Oh my gosh.
It's
just I don't know, it's a film that we don't really get much, we haven't had much before in the festival in the past like 5 or 6 years, and it's just doesn't just take you on a journey, but it's just it's just like don't know, takes you from one end of this deserted country onto this hotel and to what this man encounters. It's just magical, and I think it was really great to see. It's really
I think like there's a lot of time there's a pressure to make a certain kind of film, certain kind of disabled narratives that are very recognizable and kind of almost educational for non-disabled people about overcoming struggles or what our struggles are or this kind of thing. And that film is just on a different level. It's just a different kind of storytelling. And I think a few of the films today, like The Odd Funeral as well, those are both Swedish films. I don't know if that has something to do with what's going on. But also Speed, like there are some that were they're quite fantastical. And for me that's refreshing
Trap
because
Rhythms was quite
Trapped Rhythms. You know, they did that sort of surreal
how
doctors.
things used to be in the
with institutionalization. So I think it's great to see these different storytelling. Exactly. About independent living. Is there anything else you wanted to passionately bring up that I've forgotten? Or shall we open up to maybe a few questions?
Open up to a few questions.
Do you feel ready for that? Bring it! Anybody have any questions?
Thank you so much. That was really, really good selection. Really enjoyed it. One of the things that I enjoyed about, for instance, Celeste, is that we see her watching TV and like her relationship with television. And I was wondering if there is more work that shows kind of that relationship with the media or with films, and like if there's sorry, my question is not very well formulated, not very well thought out. But for people who are learning disabled, the kind of writing criticism or expressing their responses to mainstream media, is there much of that?
In the rest of the program, you think of other instances where a lot of films to go through where people are responding to watching something else, or criticizing other media. I'm trying to think.
What do you mean, trying to criticise what though? Mainstream or people?
Or interacting with mainstream, like the way Celeste was watching a soap opera and was really interacting with that. And had her detailed analysis of all of the different characters and that kind of thing. If you can think of any other films, it's not something that I can think of that have come across as a really obvious developed idea in other films. I'll have a think on it.
I'll have a think on it as well.
I think that's it's kind of interesting because obviously, like. Most people consume mainstream media anyway, whether they have a learning disability or not. But that perspective, when mainstream media creators make their things, they usually don't consider the audience, and that would be really interesting to learn more about.
How audiences are there. Any other?
Well, I was just interested in what you were saying earlier about how this programme was put together. Obviously, you are sympathetic to the cause. How would you guys deal with somebody who, in the film, as you were saying earlier on, the home setup, how they didn't feel that the staff were necessarily on board with what was really needing to be done? I've come across a few films like that, obviously, over the years, and some that have actually incensed me, to put it quite frankly. It's just like, well, what's the point to that? You're not actually showcasing the people on screen, you're showcasing yourselves. So how would you deal with that?
I tend not to program those films. It's like there's a lot of them, and it's hard because you want, when the people in the film, you want their stories to get out, right? But it's a difficult.
Exactly, that's what I was. That's the problem, because it's not necessarily that you're line with what they're trying to say, or what they're not trying to say. It's just you're not really in line with how it's been put out.
I think there are a lot of films like this where people decide they're going to make a film about someone with Down syndrome, or about what it's like to, you know, have a certain disability. And it is really difficult if disabled people aren't involved in the writing and in controlling their own narratives. And it is something that does happen quite a lot. And charities quite a lot, whereas the overlap with the brushing your teeth videos and the car washing videos, there's a lot of this sort of, you know, charities controlling narratives around people, and you have to be wary.
Well, really, you do, because when Matthew was starting out, just trying to find anything, anything at all. I mean, it was more than difficult, to put it frankly. More than difficult. It's just places like yourself, people like yourself are really, really important.
Yeah, Matthew's work is really important in this area. Yeah, because you're really, you know, framing the narrative, aren't you?
I hope so.
Yeah. Did you have any other thoughts on that, on who controls the narrative, and like how can you you can't always tell, right?
No, you can't.
When you get the films in, sometimes it's really obvious.
Yeah, sometimes it is really obvious. Yeah.
So how many films did you actually consider before you managed to whittle it down to this?
How many did you have in your festival? It was like 65.
What, I mean, this program?
Yeah.
This program.
I think it was like 65 in your festival.
No.
No, more.
What happened?
Okay, 65.
No, how many did we consider for this?
I think all of the films from your festival.
Yeah.
About 60 something.
Yeah, 67.
Yeah.
But now we now get down to how many was in that?
This is
10.
10.
10.
And are there any that just sort of missed being included that you kind of just
Oh
think,
yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many. Like I liked almost every film that I saw. I mean, there were a few that I was like, meh. But mostly, like, I really loved them. It's just trying to find something that fit together in a way that represented, you know, a distillation of kind of what you do.
Yeah.
Because there's so many good ones. Like, check out their festival. You have some things, some are online, some of the things. If you look at their program, you can sometimes find a few here and there.
Like, I wanted one or two, but then I think after talking to you and like after Skyping you, it's like, and after I think that wouldn't really work out. That wouldn't really work out on like balancing them onto us and the genres as well. That wouldn't really work. We would have wanted it, but then to be fit with every.
There was this one. Oh, I forget the name of the. I'm terrible with names sometimes, but the art one. It was like one of the art documentaries, and the person painted with
the
bowling.
Artist one.
She did bowling painting. It was amazing. Oh, I can't remember the name. Megazone.
Oh,
that's the name of the film. Megazone.
Okay.
I kind of wanted that one, but then I realized it was starting to feel a lot documentary heavy, and we wanted to balance things out with like some other kinds of things. I think as well. Megazone. Yeah. Bowling painting. Try it sometime.
Hi. Thank you. They were really awesome. I'm curious about when you're talking about certain stories that get reproduced. I was wondering how much do like arts funders funnel or kind of reward certain narratives, or is it like how is it the structure around funders expecting these stories, or how do you push back at that, or is anything?
Yeah, I mean, likely so. I think disabled people, deaf people, and learning disabled people, neurodivergent people, these kinds of experiences are still very much out of the mainstream, as Matthew was saying, you know, and they're still looked at niche things that maybe, you know, oh, that's cool, like pitch it as a story that's all around, you know, oh, someone's trying to murder this person and they're deaf, you know, and like all the cool ways they cannot be murdered because they're deaf or blind, or insert thing here, you know, these kinds of stories that are just kind of ridiculous, aren't they?
Yeah.
You know, but it gets funded because there's not a lot of people working at many levels in the arts from disabled backgrounds. Like there's so many barriers to getting there with education. I guess with learning disabled people, often people were in, you know, separate education as well, and still now that's happening. And that can keep people from being able to go to university programs that get them into places where they can write a funding application. I mean, that's a whole other, the inaccessibility of funding applications. I don't even bother anymore. I don't know. But yeah. Do you have any thoughts on that? On where the money's coming from and whether that affects
what,
like
whether
funding?
it affects our submissions to, whether it affects.
Yeah, like whether it affects
okay.
whether films get funded and made, I guess.
Well, I suppose at the end of the day, of course, it's boils down to money, but I hope it doesn't. I hope at the end, I don't know. I hope it's not a big contributing factor, because you know, I know, yeah, we're in a bit of a crisis, but I hope it's not a big factor.
Yeah, I hope people still finding ways to make.
People are finding ways, even if you have to look at it in a
Go ahead, and then Matthew.
I just wanted to go back to the choice of film.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry?
Yes, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, the way the program is set, how do you choose the first film, the second film, the third film, and do you think it has a different impact on the audience because it makes a different narrative if you put this film in this place?
Oh yeah.
How do
for
you,
sure. We arm wrestle. No. Yeah, I mean that's sort of what we talked about with you wanting to open with The Mask to give like a sort of punchy opening with that.
Punchy.
Set a certain tone. But yeah, with what you put first changes everything in a lot of ways than what you put last. Traditionally, like a lot of people end with the longest film.
Okay.
But we kind of wanted to end with a little bit something else, and that's why the wonderful golden outfits of Radio gave a dancey ending to things. But do you want to talk a bit more about the in-between, like how we came up?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Well,
is that a long discussion generally about the order? Or it comes, depends on the film, I suppose.
Well, this is an interesting question. Do you set the order, or does your committee set the order? Do they just choose the films and then you set the order? Ooh.
I don't know. Do I set the order? Yeah.
Because I usually do this alone, and I think you do too, right? You do
it. Oh my God! Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting.
Sorry. Yeah. So at the end of the day, once we've all come back, I suppose that is my most trickiest job ever.
It is tricky.
It's
telling
tricky.
A story.
People don't realise that, but it is tricky. But
for me, that was the first time working with someone else to do that. I don't know, like to make the order. Okay. It sounds like you usually do it alone as well. Like you kind of think about, not with the whole committee anyway.
No,
that would be
not
difficult.
with the whole committee.
But it was surprisingly easy. Like we kind of flowed through. It was a long discussion. We changed a few things.
We changed a few things.
Like
that wouldn't flow with that. That wouldn't balance out with that film.
I think I wanted to open with like one of the musical pieces originally, and then you convinced me that opening with The Mask was better, and I'm down with that. I agree. Okay. You sold me. You sold me. But yeah, like it does change the story, and it's an interesting part of making a screening that takes a lot of thought and often isn't talked about. So thank you for mentioning it. Matthew had a question.
Yeah, it was kind of adding on to the sort of film programmer aspect. Like obviously, like there's a very low number of learning disabled programmers. And you know, I get a bit gushy here, but you'll just have to deal with all my gushiness.
Yeah, no, I can deal with it.
It's really, really amazing what you've done. It's like really, really, you've just opened up this space. It's not just the fact that you're accepting LGBTQ plus learning disabled filmmakers, you're accepting BA, ME, you know, people, you're accepting women as well, which is, and you're changing the game.
Of course,
you know, you're changing the game completely, and I think that sends a message. It basically means, you know what, there's these other people with learning disabilities that want to be visible, and obviously Oska Bright are making that happen, and you're sending that clear message of like, you know what, we're here. And I'm
sending it out again. If anybody knows anybody in Glasgow, Scotland and beyond, and it's just the simple fact that, you know what, we're bloody here and we're no bloody going. We're here. We're not bloody going nowhere. Stop. Exactly. We're in a minority, gay and learning disability, and we want our voices heard and to be represented.
And quite personally, funders need to get their fingers.
Funders. Exactly.
It's getting to a point where, you know what, it's all about, like, you know, it's just, it really, really annoys me as a learning disabled filmmaker, because you know what, guess what? And I'm going to go on a rant here, and I hope nobody's going to stop me. Because
I'm not going to stop you. No, go ahead, Matthew.
Even the education systems, like, I've been to special needs schools, I don't have the proper qualifications. I don't have hires or advanced hires.
No, I don't either.
To go to bloody art school, to go to film school.
It's actually worse than that. It really is.
And it's like, oh well, in order to get that access, you need to have the qualifications. What's that? How's that going to help people with special needs who want to get into the creative industries? It's not enough. And you know what? I'm getting sick of it. And it's thanks to you and Oska Bright. You know what? These are the hope for learning disabled people internationally and in the UK. And also, want to add a question onto that, right? How did you, like, was it guiding lights that you got your mentorship through? How did you find out about guiding lights, and how did they guide you through?
Me personally, so me and a friend. So it was through David was on it, wasn't he?
That's right.
So the senior producer at Carousel, him personally, and his professional career, creative career, he was on Guiding Lights. And then I think he said, oh well, what about these two fantastic people at Carousel called Matthew Hellett and Becky, and then David and Lizzie approached them, and then the rest is history, and here we are. But
Here we are. That was an excellent rant, and I think everything should say everyone should have to rant before they ask you
I didn't have
I'm just a normal wee genie. I just have to say, and that's that.
Exactly.
But I get it from my mum too, so
It's
a compliment.
But it's true what you're talking about, like the educational requirements, and this is getting worse and worse, I think, from a class basis as well as a disability or learning disability angle. Is that, like, everyone now, the professionalization of the arts, you have to have a master's and a PhD to do, to write a poetry book these days. Like, you look at people's bios and it's just everybody's like a PhD, and it's sort of perpetuating this idea that you have to be that.
Anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's also due to the fact that also
that's recognised qualification.
Yeah.
So if you look at the
it's
films
5
that
years
you
of
had to look
Oh right,
through,
okay.
how diverse were they films?
Yeah, exactly.
The actual learning disability side of it gives you a lot more diversity than the mainstream can ever hope for.
It's true.
It's as simple as that in my mind.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's a very, very diverse community as well.
Yeah.
That you're looking at.
Oh yes, very.
I think it's just the simple fact that we can't wait. We cannot wait for the mainstream to come to us. We can't.
No, we
Not that
can't
way.
wait.
The mainstream to come at me. The mainstream can do whatever they bloody like. But you know what I mean? No, I'm being serious. Like, they what you bloody like. I'm not bloody waiting for you. I think the DIY arts community is probably the way to go. But I know that again, that access can be a bit of an issue even within the DIY art scene, because not everybody can get access to a camcorder because it, state of the art equipment, it's costly. But I suppose, if you've got a smartphone, or as I've said, like,
Well, again, it's back to the technology. I mean, I found when Matthew was at school, not to put too fine a point on it, most of the teachers there were all lazy. They just couldn't be bothered with mainstream, so they felt if they were in with kids that didn't have the wherewithal, the understanding of how the system should work, when they matter. Unfortunately, I had to deal with me, but that became a major issue. Like, something simple like learning, on the job, your work experience. Absolute joke for people with learning disabilities. All the opportunities are out there to go to the theatres, to go to the cinemas, and learn these trades before you even get to adulthood. They're just non-existent in the learning disabilities forum. I mean, Matthew got into a programme for radio stations. It wasn't on their programme. They were basically saying offices and paperwork, that was it. And when we went up, we quizzed them about this. I mean, basically they brought the sheet back out, handed it to me and went, Matthew this, Matthew that. It was the same list that I'd already told them we had a problem with. And I was just like, Matthew, no, right, okay, right, we're on the same page now, we're here to deal with that problem. The problem is there isn't anything on this that he wants to do. We've already told you this, but I've came to the meeting and you're trying to feed it to us again. And that's pretty common place. And that's my issue. It's like people like Matthew who have, I mean, without doubt, got the ability to do these things. They're dropping through the cracks. And they've got to be more than just Matthew. There's got to be.
I mean, my favourite subject at school was art, but I didn't even have the privilege of doing drama work, film work. I had no qualifications. Even when I left school at 16 to do further education for another 2 more years, plus another 2 more years at Lewis and Brighton, I had no qualifications at all. But I didn't really worry about that. But I had a good art teacher, but she was good, and that was my favourite subject. But it was what it was, but it wasn't great. But it's obviously a lot better now. Well, hopefully. Hopefully.
So a lot of parents are prone to just, okay, is this what we've got to do? Because it's, for a lot of them, they might have other kids, but they might not have learning difficulties. So for parents as well, it's a difficult one. I was lucky in that my brothers and my sister had learning disabilities, so I grew up with that. So I'm a second generation, if you like. So when Matthew and Andrew came along, it was like, I kind of thought, right, well, I know all the pitfalls and all the things I'm definitely not going to do, but all the fights I'm going to have in front of me. And that's the big battle, isn't it? It's a battle.
What are the opportunities like for you guys as programmers with works like this to screen them in mainstream media and reach, like BBC iPlayer, that kind of thing? What are the opportunities like to actually get on there and have a wider audience?
Good question.
And how do you make those opportunities?
I mean, I work as an independent programmer, and I mainly just I end up doing maybe one thing a year, to be honest. And it's a real struggle to get, film festivals to come on board with basic things like captioning all the films in the festival, or even captioning all the films just in our screening, doing audio description, these kinds of things. So there's a lot of barriers there because most film festivals aren't thinking about access. They're not thinking about it for audiences, never mind, filmmakers and programmers. People are nominated for awards and can't get on the stage to get them sometimes, things like that. But in terms of distribution, probably someone else from Oska Bright or Carousel would have those kind of answers. I don't know.
Yes.
I know that Queer Freedom has been really popular, right? Like it's.
Oh my God! Yeah, hasn't it? Yeah.
Because sometimes people will I don't know what the word is, rent out a program that's already been done for their own festival, where they don't curate their own, say, learning disabled LGBT thing. They go, oh, there's a cool one already in existence. We'll pay these people to bring their screening over. So Queer Freedom has been, where has it been? It's been like a few places, no?
Yeah, can't think of hand, but yeah, it's been a few places.
Yeah, all over the UK, all over
Yeah, it's
Europe.
been all over the country and yeah.
So that's hopeful, I guess, but I don't.
But no, that's just a tiny tip of the iceberg, isn't it? Really, because you know.
Yeah. It's still a lot of indie film festivals, mostly, I would say.
And that's that's a recent development, really.
Yeah.
You know, like this to be part of Encounters in Bristol, London Short Film Festival, but that's taken years of chipping away at it. Yeah, and there's still a long way to go. I think Europe's a bit more, I don't know, with it. And we definitely get better films from Europe as well. But the UK seems to be a bit stuck, eh?
Yeah, I think people.
I can't understand why it's still stuck in the 21st century, to be frankly honest.
Yeah, totally.
So but anyway.
It's true.
Which country in Europe you think are more open to that?
Sweden all the
Like,
way.
Germany.
Two of those films are from Sweden, aren't they?
Yeah.
So.
Germany's, that's true.
There's some really good stuff. French.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm French.
There was one really good Spanish one.
Oh yeah.
It was too long. That was you talked about leaving some out. I had to leave it out. It was my favorite. One of my favorites.
Oh yeah.
But I had, oh my gosh, the name. I'm so bad at the name.
Aquí posible.
Aquí posible.
Oh my god.
Aquí posible. I think it was short form from Aquí todo es posible. And it was really, really good. And it had a lot of Basque actors in it as well. It was a really interesting film. It was about a guy with Down syndrome.
Yeah.
And his neighbor who comes to like knock on his door because he locks himself out.
Yeah.
And is a total asshole. And then like realizes that he's being an asshole and they develop a friendship.
Yeah.
And I'd never seen anything like that from here, really. There's one or two from here, but
that got real distribution as well. And that came through an agent.
Wow.
I'd never had
an
like,
agent
who are you?
in the
What's
UK.
this? And
Right.
Italy's the same as well. Really great stuff.
I think we're probably going to get kicked out.
Yeah.
We've been talking for a long time.
Definitely.
We've been milking
getting
it.
kicked out?
Thank you so much,
I
everybody.
don't want to use those words.
Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Thank you,